Hey everybody, welcome back to the Point. Hope you're doing well. Been off for a little over a week. Started a new job, doing a couple different things. So thank you for joining me once again. We'll be back regularly, 3 to 4 times a week, moving forward. But a little reset. Happy to be back here live with all of you this evening. And we have a lot to dive into because, like I said, it's been over a week since we last spoke. Stanley Cup final. And oddly enough, was off a week, missed one hockey and two NBA games in that span, which is pretty hard to believe because it's a week and it's the playoffs and it's June 10th. But that's the schedule. That's what's been happening. And this has been said, I'm sure, 1,000 times in other podcasts. It was ridiculous that it took this long, that the Stanley Cup final, if it goes 7 games, will be over on June 24th. But regardless, we are here. If you're a fan of To The Point, you know that I predicted the Oilers would play the Panthers in the Stanley Cup final, so I did get that correct. I had the Oilers winning the Cup way back when. I'm not backing off that opinion now, but on Saturday night, they lost Game 1, 3-0 to the Florida Panthers in beautiful Sunrise. Multiple things to break down. If you look at the box score, you look at high-quality danger chances, slot, shots, whatever it might be, the Edmonton Oilers were the better team. Better in every category other than, you could say, goaltending. And yet, in a game where Edmonton was the better team, they lost, and they're making lineup changes going into Game 2 when the puck drops in about 2.5 hours, 3 hours from now. So, I'm going to say this again. The easy thing is to just go, well, the Oilers got robbed. The Oilers ran in to bad luck. I don't view it that way. I think that's kind of a lazy approach to what happened on Saturday night. I don't think the Oilers got goalied. I don't think the Oilers got robbed. I think the Panthers did a lot right in that game on Saturday night, and we're not hearing about it. The Oilers had more power plays than the Panthers. And something we know unequivocally, the Edmonton power play is better than Florida's because the Edmonton power play is the best power play in the entire league, including the playoffs. It's interesting. Oilers had 3 power plays. They went 0 for 3 on the power play, and I can't really recall a great chance that they had in either of the 3 power plays. I think Florida, for a team that didn't play better, true, defended incredibly well during the game on Saturday. Sasha Barkov, Evan Rodriguez, Gustav Forsling, Nico Mikkola, blocking shots, getting into the lanes, and making it extremely difficult for Edmonton to get high-quality scoring chances. Because in a game where Edmonton outshot Florida 32-18, Edmonton only had 32 shots. 32 shots isn't all that impressive. 32 shots, you go, oh, we had 32 shots against our opponent. That doesn't seem like a beatdown of a game. That's not 45-10. That's not Edmonton beating Dallas 2-1 with a 35-10 shot total in Game 6, the closeout game. Florida got a lead early, and they knew what to do with it. They were smart. They didn't allow a lot of high-quality danger scoring opportunities. Bobrovsky made saves when he had to. The Oilers apparently missed the scouting report. The weakness on Bobrovsky is going to the glove side. They didn't want to lift the puck. Nugent Hopkins, partial break. Let's go backhand pad. Minute later, same damn move for the next player. Okay, were either of those really that close to going in? Were either of those looks real close to the goal line? No, it was a save. It was an easy save, you could argue. So I think this narrative that Edmonton just dominated the game and it was one-sided, one-way traffic, and I picked the Oilers to win the damn series, it's a farce. Again, shot totals and a box score does not define the game. When you're growing up and you're playing hockey and you want your kid to play well, the easy thing to do as a parent is to look at it and say, oh, my kid scored a goal. I heard this so many times from parents, either growing up with my sister or myself. Oh, my kid got a goal. My kid got an assist. He had a good game. That doesn't mean he had a good game. We outshot the opponent. We deserve to win. Says who? Does that define that you deserve to win, did you? Interesting. To me, the team that deserves to win is the team that scores more goals than the other. Quite simple. Edmonton played better, sure, but they didn't win because Florida capitalized and Edmonton didn't because they had 32 shots that weren't really that high danger of a scoring opportunity. Here's my worry for Edmonton moving forward. If the referees are going to allow Tkachuk, Bennett, Ekblad to physically maul, and that's the verb I'm going to use, maul, so that's the adjective I'm going to use, Connor McDavid, that's a difficult proposition for the Oilers because they aren't as physical as Florida, and they can make lineup changes, which we'll get into, and they still won't be as physical as Florida because Florida's just a big, strong, mean team. They're going to go at Connor. They're going to go at Draisaitl. They're going to cross-check them after the whistle. But they're going to play between the lines because something Florida is not are a bunch of idiots. They're not taking stupid penalties like they did last year. They're not going after the whistle, sucker punching a guy and taking a dumb penalty because they know doing that against the Edmonton Oilers is a losing proposition. It's a losing equity type play for them. So they're playing between the whistles. They're playing the right way. They're doing the right things. So I think for Edmonton, control the neutral zone, be fast, and get to pucks first. That was the key in the Dallas series. They were faster, and they got the pucks when they had to. They were there first. They had great looks. They created scoring opportunities with their speed and with their intelligence. Because I do think the Edmonton Oilers are a high-quality, high-intelligent team. Connor McDavid's the best player in the game. That's not just because of skill. It's because he knows what he's doing. Leon Draisaitl is an incredibly intelligent player. So all that being said, the Oilers need to control the neutral zone and then make better decisions. And you know what? Maybe back check. Because the 2 goals that they allowed with a goalie in the net were not because of, Florida was tougher or because you were out shooting Florida like the narrative after game 1 outside of this show. Florida were more tenacious. And they capitalized on opportunities while the Oilers sat there looking at the puck in the back of the net. First goal of the game, if you remember it, turnover, puck goes the other way. Tic-tac-toe, Sasha Barkov, backhand feed to Carter Verhaeghe, who buried his 10th of the postseason. On the broadcast, they put Connor McDavid on the screen. I don't know why. It wasn't his man on the back check. Then they put it on Darnell Nurse, who was on the ice, was not his man on the back check. They put it on both defensemen. Cody Ceci, who did not have a good game, but we'll get to that in a second. It was Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman was supposed to cover Verhaeghe, and he was lollygagging his ass back into the zone. He was out for a strut. He was an 80-year-old man on a Sunday afternoon going for a rip in the park. And no back check, no compete, not going to get there, and he gave up on it. And guess what? Verhaeghe scored the goal. Now, Sportsnet showed 3 different guys. Craig Simpson, I think, pointed out that it was every other person but Zach Hyman, which is par for the course from Craig Simpson. But that's what happened. Go back and watch the goal. Go look it up on YouTube and see the play. Guess who's trailing in the play? $100 says it's Zach Hyman, but you can get back to me on that, and you can Venmo me the money if I'm right. So that's number 1. Back check. Work harder. Be in those positions. Sacrifice. Second goal. Bennett goes into the corner. CC doesn't fight him for it. Goes in slow, lollygagging a little bit. Darnell Nurse is puck watching. Bennett tape-to-tape pass. And Evan Rodriguez bullet into the back of the net. 2-0. And it didn't matter. That was the first goal of the game was a game-winning goal because Edmonton didn't score. That was it. 2 plays where they fell asleep and Florida didn't. Or their goalie was good enough to bail them out of lulls in the hockey game. Tonight, Cody Ceci's a healthy scratch for the first time this postseason. It's a big shift. Vinny Desharnais enters the lineup after being out since Game 4 of the conference final. That would mean Philip Broberg remains in the lineup. Ceci was their worst defenseman on Saturday, so it makes sense. You want to add a physical element to your team. Desharnais is your biggest player. Florida was physical the entire night. Nobody is the size of Vinny Desharnais on the Florida Panthers. So I would expect him to have a physical impact on the game tonight. Also might look like Sam Carrick might re-enter the lineup for Corey Perry. But we'll see. Chris Knobloch is not afraid to make adjustments on the fly and see what happens. And Evander Kane will play tonight despite the fact that he is banged up, and you can tell he is not at 100%. Edmonton's got a couple things going against them on top of that. They are more hurt than Florida. To me, he's got something with him. He's not 100%. Talked about Evander Kane. Bouchard hasn't been as effective. I think he's kind of wearing something. Florida going into the Stanley Cup final last year hardly had a heart to breathe. Tkachuk had a broken sternum. Barkov had to have surgery. Bobrovsky had surgery when the playoffs were over. Sometimes you just got to be fortunate with injuries. Overcome them. Florida's in a better position than Edmonton right now, and Florida is the betting favorite going in, so it looks good on them. I do believe Edmonton has to win tonight or they're not going to win the series. And I think if they lose tonight, it's going to be a quick series. I think it's over in 5 or less if Edmonton loses tonight. They win the night, they can win. I think if they even losing 2 in Florida, Florida's too good. They're not going to lose 4 in a row. It's not going to happen. They will put the boa constrictor on you and they will suck the life out of you because that's just the way they're built. Sasha Barkov is playing at such a high level at both ends of the ice. And he's so hard to deal with because he's incredibly unique. You have a player that I think has a unique ability when it comes to the history of the game with his intelligence when it comes to what to do and where he places that stick. He knows every angle. He knows where you're going to go with the puck, and he eliminates that play before you make it. And then he'll go set up a goal on the other end. In past years, he was more of a liability than a reason why they got there. As early as last year. Tkachuk's playing with a broken sternum. Barkov was very quiet in the Stanley Cup final. He's the captain of this team. He's playing like a leader. He's playing like he's the best player on the Florida Panthers. But they have so many options. So many great players that can make an impact. Barkov is only one of them. You look around. Gustav Forsling's been fantastic throughout the playoffs. Matty Tkachuk's been pretty damn good since the trade, if I do say so myself. Brandon Montour. Carter Verhaeghe has got 10 goals in the postseason. Sam Reinhart, an incredible season on top of a great playoff. A lot of great producers, a lot of guys stepping up. Tonight, I think Edmonton's going to come out with a purpose and come out physical. I think if you're Chris Knobloch, you say, we're not changing that much from game 1. But our scouting report on Bobrovsky was horrible. Whoever gave it to them, we got to lift the puck. Shoot it over his glove, please and thank you. That's where the goals go in, not low. He's got fantastic lower body. Shoot it. Lift the puck. If I see Bennett, Tkachuk, anybody on that Panthers team screw with McDavid earlier, I'm sending Darnay over and I'm sending a message. He doesn't have to fight anybody. He can literally go over and grab somebody in the Panthers and go, okay, go ahead. You're touching him the whole night, I'll break you in half. You don't want this. Bennett's a tough character, tough customer. He'd probably fight Darnay. But he doesn't want to do that. That's not a fun night at the office. Have to look at the giant the whole night and hope that it goes well for you, which it probably won't. It's like Edmonton will want to be a little more physical, have a little more of an impact that way with a big Florida team. But I expect McDavid to respond. He was okay in game 1, but I don't think he was anything special. In this series, I'm not putting McDavid and Draisaitl together on the road. And the reason I say that is Barkov's going to be on the ice every time McDavid is. And if McDavid's on the ice every time Draisaitl is, that means Barkov's on the ice every time against both of them. I don't want that. I will take my chances with Sam Bennett. I will take my chances with Luosterainen. I will take my chances with Anton Lundell. I don't care which other center it is. I want one of the 5 best players in the world on the ice against somebody not named Sasha Barkov. Having your two best on the ice with him makes no sense. I want to maximize. Normally, you go, well, you want to maximize your chances of winning, you put your two best players together. I never agree with this. Leafs fans have seen that fail for 8 years. Mara and Matthews together. How many times have they won? Oh, yeah, none. I think it's a desperate plan. Maybe you do it at home because you get last change. I'm not doing it. Draisaitl is playing tonight, and I'm putting him on a line with a banged up Evander Kane, hoping he can find a spark and have an impact this late into the season. Hasn't had a great playoff, hasn't been the player you'd hoped he'd be. But does he have anything left tonight? Can he go? Ryan McLeod, I don't love Ryan McLeod. I think oftentimes he is drifting into the clouds. He's fading into the oblivion. He's doing nothing when it comes to impact, when it comes to helping the team. So I'm not putting him on the line. I don't think he deserves that opportunity. But you got Kane. I consider Fogle because he skates hard. He's physical. Go to the net. You can finish. But if you went Vander Kane, Nugent Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, that's a good line. They can have an impact. I'll reiterate. If Edmonton loses tonight, to me, the series is over because they're not beating Florida 4 times in a row or 4 times in 5 games. They're not doing it. Florida's too good for that to happen to them. If it was against the Rangers, sure. Sure, no problem. Panarin and those boys, they could lose 4 and 5. They lose the second one, their ass cheeks tighten, and they start just to give up mentally. This Florida team, no. They're too bought in. Back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. Paul Maurice has this team believing. Crazy stat. The last 5 years, a team in Florida has been in the Stanley Cup all 5 of those years. Tampa 3 in a row. And then Florida 2 in a row. It's the Hockeytown, USA. The state of Florida. They own trips to the Stanley Cup final. They own the Eastern Conference. Used to kind of be a joke. The Florida team's never going to do anything. They've set themselves up well. Changed the outlook on hockey in that market. Gretzky did it in California. He didn't win a cup out there. They didn't get deep. But his presence alone changed the outlook on hockey in California. I look at Florida, I don't think you can pinpoint one guy. I'm not going to say Kachuk, even though he's my favorite player. I do think he's had an impact, but I'm not going to point him out just solely. But to me, it's been about winning. It's been about consistency. The way they play. Sunrise, Tampa, 5 Stanley Cups, really good team. Likeable players. Star players, you could argue. They've built really good to star players through Bill Zito's ability to build a team. Picking up guys like Carter Verhaeghe, who was on waivers. Taking Sam Reinhart after being dumped by the Buffalo Sabres. Making the best trade in franchise history, Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk. Signing Bobrovsky when he no longer wanted to be in Columbus. It's come together. Hiring Paul Maurice was a great hire. Those are just some of the things they've done. Brandon Montour is a star. Gustav Forsling was claimed off waivers from their rival, the Carolina Hurricanes. He's now signed to an 8-year contract, and he's one of the better defensive defensemen in the league, period. Not as good as Slavin, but right there. It's impressive stuff. Edmonton's fighting uphill. But internally, they have to believe we played better in game one. If we play the same way, we'll win game two. I'm not so sure, but we'll see. For Florida, they know they got to play better. They know, hey, we're lucky to have won game one. Bobrovsky was fantastic. Now it's our game to outperform them, to outclass them. Let's go out there and prove we're as big a favorite as the Boston Celtics are in the NBA. I think we get a close game tonight. Good back and forth affair. I have Edmonton knotting it up at a game apiece in Sunrise tonight, heading back to Edmonton. Other NHL news before we move off. The Utah yet-to-be-named team is down to 6 possible names. After taking 520,000 votes, I'm not so sure about that number, but I have no proof to say it's not true, but I don't believe that they got that many votes. But nevertheless, the 6 contenders are Utah Blizzard, crap, Utah Hockey Club, Utah Mammoth, Utah Outlaws, junk, Utah Venom, junk, the movie sucks too, and the Utah Yeti, gross. And also, isn't Yeti kind of a not PC? I thought we learned that with other names that were changed. Cleveland, formerly of the Indians. It's the Yeti. Is that not something? Can that not be today's world? Could that not be deemed offensive? I mean, everything else can. So just a thought. Just a thought before it happens. My vote is Utah Hockey Club, and it's 100 times out of 100. I'm voting for Utah Hockey Club. I love the Washington football team, the WFT. The Washington football team should still be that, not the Commanders. Gross. As I said, Utah Mammoth, that's okay. But mammoths, an extinct animal, that's your team. All right, well, Utah Blizzard. No. We live here in Canada. Are we scared of blizzards? You scared of a blizzard? I guess people around here are, because you got to pack up, you got to go get water like it's COVID every time you get 10 centimeters of snow. But some of us aren't scared of a blizzard. All right? You stay in your house, you throw on a movie, you wake up, you shovel the snow. Easy peasy. Blizzard. Grow up. Outlaws. What kind of outlaws are there in Utah? We've been through this. Utah. Mormons, darkness, and bars closing at 10 p.m. What outlaws? Hell's Angels down there? Is there some mob I'm not known? A big mob, Mormon mob? Outlaws. Junk. Utah Venom. When I think of Venom, I think of I don't even know what he is, if he's a hero or if he's a villain in the Marvel community. I know Tom Hardy played. I watched the first Venom movie. I watched about 30 minutes of it, and it was horrible, and I turned it off, and I haven't watched the second one. And I heard there's a third one, which I have no plans to watch. I also remember the Spider-Man 3 back in the day with Tobey Maguire, the OG. Old Eric Foreman of that 70s show played Venom briefly in Topher Grace is the actor's name, played him in that movie, which was Venom, and I thought he was a stupid character then, stupid character now, so no, and Yeti, as we've been through, that potentially could be offensive. Round 2 of voting to select the winner runs through June 20th. Come on, UHC, Utah Hockey Club. It's unique. It's different. It's not stupid. You stand out. Either go with that or going with the Fighting Mormons, my original pitch. Embrace your community. You're not outlaws. You're Mormons. Four Nations Cup tournament begins in February 2025. The host cities, Montreal and Boston. This is it's okay. It's better than the All-Star game, so I'll take it. You get Sweden playing Finland, and you get Canada playing US. Russia should be included, but it won't be for obvious reasons. But there's a hole in this. I mean, you're not seeing the Russians play. So that is an issue. But, it's fine. I'd go to this. A friend of mine sent me a text, said we should go to this. I'd go 100%. We haven't seen international play since, with the best, since the Sochi Olympics of 2014. So it'll be over a decade. So, sure, it's fun. It's better than the All-Star game. Good on the Four Nations. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. The San Jose Sharks still have yet to name their head coach, which is perplexing. I'm sure they know who it is. They're just not announcing it during the Stanley Cup final. But that wouldn't even become big news. That's not a headline. Macklin Celebrini, I saw he's at the Stanley Cup final. He's in Sunrise tonight alongside some other top-end prospects in the upcoming draft on June 28th, live at the Sphere. So I'm sure he would like to know his head coach when he gets drafted, but we don't know yet. But that's the hockey news. The NBA, I got to be honest here. The NBA Finals is a little bit of a chore. It's not interesting. The Celtics are huge favorites. And this is bad for me to say, but hey, if we're not being honest, we're not living, right? They're going to win, but I really don't care. They've went through the playoffs playing a bucket of tepid water of opponents. Cleveland with half a leg. The Heat without their two best players. Then who? Indiana with a hindered Indiana, without Halliburton, without Benedict Mathurin. Then you get to the finals and you get the Mavericks, who are happy to be here. Luka Doncic is a star of stars. At the end of his career, he'll be looked at as a better player than Dirk Nowitzki. He isn't right now. And I refuse to admit that because of multiple reasons. Dirk Nowitzki is my favorite NBA player ever. And also my puppy is named Dirk. So I'm not giving Luka the time of day yet. Win a title, do something. I thought he played very well last night. But I never thought the Celtics were going to lose. Celtics always seem in these games want to try to lose. That's the only way they lose is if they give up the game. Luka 12 for 21, 32, 11, and 11. But Kyrie Irving was less than adequate again. 16 points, 7 for 18 from the field. Their bench didn't give them anything from the Mavericks. You look at PJ Washington, 6 for 13 from the floor, not good enough. While the Celtics, Jason Tatum nearly had a triple-double. I thought he played horrible. 45 minutes, and I'm sure Brian Scalabrine or Chris Mannix or some other Homer Celtics reporter will tell you he was awesome. I thought he was shit last night. 6 for 22 from the field. He couldn't knock down a shot to save his life. Jaylen Brown's been better in the playoffs than him. Jrue Holiday, 11 for 14 from the floor, 26 and 11. Derek White with 18. Porzingis with 12. Pritchard had 3 points, but it was a huge one at the buzzer to end the third quarter. The Celtics have more players that make things happen than the Dallas Mavericks, period. They just do. Derek White's a really good defender. He's a pretty good player. Jrue Holiday is a great defender. Was the second best player on a championship team in Milwaukee. And then you get him. And then you get him in Boston to surround him with Tatum and Brown and Al Horford and Porzingis. And they just have too many weapons. Dallas normally has 2 options. They have 1 right now. Luka played 42 minutes. He had to play more than 42 if they were going to win that game. And you see him, he's wrapped like a mummy before the game. He's clearly banged up, not 100%. And Derek Lively had a concussion in the last round. He can't be 100%. Maxi Kleber can't make a shot. Gafford stinks. Derek Jones, he's a role player. You're not going to knock down shots. I don't think the Mavericks are going to get swept, but I think the Celtics are going to win the series in 5. They'll win Game 4 in Dallas. They'll win Game 5 on their home floor in Boston. That's my prediction. Their defensive motion, their ability to rely on guys to take shots, Dallas does not have that. Dallas should be thrilled they got to the NBA Finals. It's a big step in the right direction, but they're not on the Celtics level. Celtics will be very good again next year, and they'll probably enter the season as the betting favorite to repeat as NBA champions. But the Celtics should win. And when you have a dominant team that's better than the rest, it's a boring product. It's a boring finals for me. And I love sports. I'm going to watch the games. But sometimes you just look at it and you have to admit what's in front of you. Just because a great actor's in a movie doesn't mean it's a great movie. I love Tom Hanks. Forrest Gump's a piece of shit film. It's awful. Garbage. I'll never watch that again. Titanic. Kate Winslet. Leo DiCaprio. Awesome. Horrible film. Just awful. Ugh. The Notebook. Gross. Bad movie. All these have great actors, but they're bad films. You got interesting names here. Luka, Tatum, Jaylen Brown. You know. Nice to see Shaq sitting with Paul Pierce, courtside. Nice to see Dave Portnoy, I suppose, with a Kyrie clown shirt. Grow up. Courtside. But I mean, this series, it lacks a lot. Interest, intrigue, anything. But I'll watch the games, but do I really care about it? No, I don't. The more interesting NBA piece of news. More interesting than the games. More interesting than the finals, anything else. It's Dan Hurley and the Lakers saga. So I'm going to take you on this timeline. Last Wednesday, the 5th of June, Sham Charania of The Athletic and FanDuel TV, a top NBA reporter, reported that JJ Redick was going to be the next head coach of the Lakers, basically. What these reporters do now, because they don't want to be wrong and they hedge, and it's all about breaking a story before you break a story, and it's not really journalism. That's another story for another day. He says, well, it's not signed and deliberations, but JJ Redick's going to be the coach. Then we get to the next day. Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN know-it-all, breaks a bombshell report the day of the NBA Finals starting, which must have pissed Adam Silver off, I'll tell you. But this is LeBron, the Lakers doing their thing, taking the calendar. He says that the Lakers are preparing to offer Dan Hurley, the UConn Huskies men's basketball head coach, the two-time reigning defending national champion, a lucrative offer to become the head coach of Los Lakers. And we hear the next day, they're talking. It was awkward because JJ Redick is calling the NBA Finals for the mothership. They're talking about the Lakers on the mothership with JJ Redick right nearby. JJ Redick co-hosts a podcast with LeBron called Mind the Game. It's very good, by the way. But they're buddies, they're pals. Looks like JJ Redick's going to the Lakers. I guess not. They're pulling a fast one. Then we get to last night. Dan Hurley, I think, reported this himself, saying, I will make my decision tomorrow if I'm leaving UConn or staying. He was at a Billy Joel concert. Good choice. And we hear this afternoon via a variety of locations that Dan Hurley has turned down a 6-year, $70 million offer from the Los Angeles Lakers. Sources told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski and returned to chase a third straight national title at UConn. I am humbled by this entire, Hurley said in a statement released by the school. At the end of the day, I'm extremely proud of the championship culture we have built at Connecticut. We met as a team before today's workout, and our focus right now is getting better this summer and connecting as a team as we continue to pursue championships. Now, I would expect Dan Hurley is going to get a raise at UConn if he's staying. Sure, he loves the kids and he loves Connecticut, but how much can a person love Connecticut? It's like not much to do there. But again, great program. He knows how to win. He knows how to recruit. He's always lived on the East Coast. He comes from a college basketball family, a lineage. This would have made Dan Hurley one of the 6 highest paid coaches in the NBA. Would have paid him over $11.5 million a year. But he stays. This is now interesting. Because the Lakers clearly wanted Dan Hurley. They wanted a splash hire. There wasn't a splash hire available. And JJ Redick has never coached in the NBA. Assistant, video coach, nothing. Worked on games. Coached his son's teams. And does a podcast with LeBron. They wanted a guy with championship pedigree, and he said no. Because he liked his situation better than the situation they were presenting to him. If JJ Redick wanted the job before, he's still going to take the job now, and he's probably not going to be offended. because he's never been a head coach, and they would be idiots not to hire Dan Hurley over JJ Redick. But I would think it would be awkward for players on that team. So we couldn't get Dan Hurley. Now we have to go with a guy who was playing the league a couple years ago, and he's calling the game for ESPN. He's now our coach. He's the consolation prize. JJ Redick. It's fascinating. If I was Dan Hurley, I think he made the right decision. If he truly wants to win, it's not about money. I think he made the right decision because I think he's a much better chance of winning a third straight national championship at UConn than he does of winning even one title in the next 6 years with the Lakers. LeBron plays 1, maybe 2 more years. If LeBron stays, does that automatically mean that you have to draft his son either in the first or second round in the draft in a couple weeks? I don't want to join a team where we're selecting a player just because his dad's on the team, just me personally. I want nothing to do with that. How does that help me as a coach? How does that help us as a team win? It doesn't. So I'm not on board for that system. I'm not on board for that strategy. We lost in the first round this past year. Who is coming in? Who's helping this team win? We don't have a whole lot of flexibility. If Dan Hurley wants to coach in the NBA, he can. He will. He'll have offers later on in his career. Win another title at UConn, you could probably make more money next summer. Is it the Lakers' job? No, but the Lakers' job, it's a prestigious job, but you got to remember, the Lakers are not a rich team. They're not Genie Buss. It's the Buss family. They're not wealthy compared to some of the other owners. And they do a lot of meddling, and they make it difficult on you, and the reporters are tricky to deal with. There are better jobs. If he was offered the Denver job and you get to go work with Jokic for the next 5 years, yeah, should take it. You got a good chance of being. If he got offered the Minnesota job, sure, I'll go work with Anthony Edwards and try to build a winner. It's like Phil Jackson, right time, right place. He gets paired with Michael Jordan. And the rest is history. They win 6 championships together. And then he wins 5 with Kobe and Shaq. Regarded as the best coach of all time. But I think Dan Hurley made the right decision for him and the right decision when it comes to winning. So LeBron's 40. He's not 30 anymore. He's still a great player, but they're out in 5 games. It's not a close series when you lose in 5 games to the Denver Nuggets. They're not better than Denver. They're not better than Minnesota. They're not better than the Mavericks in the West. If LeBron really wanted to win, he'd leave the Lakers and he'd go somewhere out east. There's no great teams in the Eastern Conference other than the Celtics, as we talked about. Teams on the come up that have an opportunity to succeed. Going back to Cleveland would make more sense for him. You have a better chance to win. Handpick your head coach. You could bring JJ Redick to Cleveland. They haven't named their head coach yet. Bring him to Cleveland. You go back. Cleveland's favorite son returns home one last time to end his career. You see if you can go on a run. The Knicks would make more sense than the Lakers. Knicks, couple really impressive years. Trying to get back up that mountaintop. Can LeBron help the team? Yes. Could they use his size? Yes. Jalen Brunson needs some help. Yes. I think he's going back to the Lakers. I do think JJ Redick is going to be the coach now. I do think they're going to draft his son. Just because all of those come true doesn't mean it's going to be successful, doesn't mean it's a good idea. If I'm Bronny James, I think he's handled this horribly. If you're not familiar, he averaged 4 points a game last year at USC, suffered like a heart ailment, missed the start of the year, and it was just a bad scene. To me, he should play more in college, but he's not going to. He said he'd only do workouts for the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. So he's coming into the league with demands already. Again, a guy who probably on his own volition shouldn't be drafted, period. I don't think that's a great look. I think LeBron wanting to play with his son makes a whole lot of sense. If I know myself, I want to make it somewhere because I earned it, because of my merit. If the Lakers draft Bronny, they're doing him a favor, and they're doing a favor to LeBron to keep him a Laker. It's not because he's a great player they think he's going to be special. And if I'm Bronny, I'd rather Sacramento draft me. Because at least they think I have something. I can go prove it on my own. Playing with dad would be awesome. But I'm sure he thinks in the back of his mind, I can be a great NBA player. I can play 15 years in this league. I can make an all-defensive team. That's his calling card. Let me go do it on my own. Let me prove to everybody that I'm a damn good player, that I can do it all, that I defend, I have a shot. If you're in LeBron's shadow, you're proving nothing. Because the only sentiment is going to be, well, this guy got to the league because of his old man. And it's a fair sentiment. It's a fair opinion. It's not hate, it's a fair opinion. Because it's the truth. No other person in his position would be getting drafted. If his name was Bronny Warren, he would be on Skid Row. He'd be walking down the road with a ball in his hand, looking for someone to play a pickup game with. But because he's Bronny James, he'll get a look from somebody. It's an interesting next couple weeks. Because teams have to choose head coaches. The draft is 2 days before the NHL draft. It's the Wednesday night. And it's one of the weaker drafts in recent memory in the NBA. No consensus, great picks. There have been experts who said picking 8th is the same as picking 1st in this draft. Could just be as successful, the 8th pick. So there will be players that hit from this draft that turn out to be great, but not a whole lot of people have a whole lot of faith in them as of right now. But Dan Hurley remains at UConn, stays at that elite program. You look at UConn, they just re-upped Gino Auriemma, the head coach of the women's basketball team at UConn, to a 5-year deal. One of the best coaches in the history of women's college basketball. And now Dan Hurley, I think, is going to get a pay raise to stay at UConn this time around. 2-time reigning national champion. Both the men's and women's program were in the Final Four this past year. The UConn women have Paige Beckers returning this coming season. UConn has Alex Caraban returning, who could have went pro but decides to go back. So both programs should be really good. Both programs will be looking at it saying we should win national titles this year. So college basketball goes through Connecticut. Goes through Storrs, Connecticut. And I think Dan Hurley made the right decision. Speaking of coaches, Mike Tomlin, pardon me. Ever heard of him? Head coach for the Steelers, Super Bowl champion, one of the best coaches in the league. He signed a 3-year contract extension with the Steelers today. Puts him through the 2027 season. And this was rumored, long time coming. Only had a year left on his deal. And they keep him in Pittsburgh. Interesting stuff. I think this is obvious. Mike Tomlin's still one of the best coaches in football, period. Any team. And he doesn't do a whole lot wrong. He makes people love playing for him. He has that demeanor. And I just think it's smart business. Players want to come to Pittsburgh because of Mike Tomlin. Because otherwise, why would you? Pittsburgh doesn't really have that big of appeal. But he gives it to them. They have an interesting season coming up with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. I've always felt, minus the Ben Roethlisberger peak years, Tomlin's played with average quarterback or worse. I think you can say he's got average this year going in. Optimism. But they play an extremely difficult division with Cleveland, who I think will be very good. Cincinnati with a healthy Joe Burrow. And Baltimore, who were in the AFC Championship game last year and have a 2-time MVP at quarterback. So it's going to be difficult for them to make the playoffs, even though they always do. And they always finish at 500 or better because that is Mike Tomlin's calling card. They made some good selections in the draft. They need to hope Russell Wilson still has something to tank, or that Justin Fields can prove himself to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But we'll see. I like this move for Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin is a legend there. The Steelers retain head coaches. They've had 3 in the last 50 years. They win Super Bowls. They do things the right way. They treat people right. Good on them. Good organization. Also, while we're gone, Justin Jefferson got the bag from the Vikings. 4 years, $140 million. $108 million guaranteed. $88 million guaranteed at signing, which is a record. This is all record stuff. He's the highest paid non-quarterback in league history. To me, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. He can just do stuff that other people just simply can't. You have a young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who you took in the first round, who you like. You have Jordan Addison, who you took in the first round last year at a USC, formerly at Pitt. T.J. Hawkinson will be returning from a torn ACL. I like this. I like their team. I like their offense. I like Kevin O'Connell as a head coach. I think he's a smart offensive mind. Again, for them, the Bears are going to be better. I think the Bears are going to be a playoff team. Packers were a playoff team last year. Packers will be good again. It's a difficult division. 100%. There's not a whole lot of weaknesses. J.J. McCarthy won a national championship at Michigan, not having to do a whole lot. Detroit was in an NFC championship game. So you need to keep tabs with everybody. Jefferson would have left if he didn't get this deal. He would have demanded a trade, and you probably would have had to done it. But I think he had to do it. I think he's the best receiver in the NFL. He helps J.J. McCarthy. He helps your offense. He keeps you competitive. In a division where even with Justin Jefferson 100%, he plays every game, they could finish dead last to me. Because it's a tough division. Just NFC North, AFC North. Two extremely difficult divisions with good teams everywhere. Really tough schedules, having to play Detroit twice, having to play Green Bay twice, having to play Chicago now twice. Other NFL news. Darren Waller, tight end, played with the Raiders for a long time, really productive. He retired yesterday, played one season with the New York Giants. When he was healthy, he was really good. He battled alcoholism, but he got clean, sober, and he'd be talked about more if there wasn't George Kittle and how good he was, and there wasn't Travis Kelce playing in the same generation as him. But to me, at times, he was the third best tight end in the game. Large parts of his career, he was playing with mediocre quarterbacks. He was playing last year in New York with Tommy DeVito and just quarterbacks that aren't very good. That didn't help him statistically. And I just think for him, he looked at it going, I have to play another year with the Giants, wreck my body more. I've made good money. Yes, he's currently going through a divorce with Kelsey Plum, who plays in the WNBA. But he's been through a lot. He's had a lot of injuries, had concussions last year. He retires. Here's a great story. Mercedes Lewis, tight end, originally was taken by the Jacksonville Jaguars way back when. He's played with Green Bay. Really good buddies with Aaron Rodgers. He signed a one-year deal with the Bears yesterday. This will be his 19th NFL season. This broke a tie with Jason Witten and Tony Gonzalez for the most seasons played at the tight end position. He turned 40 on May 19th, making him the second oldest player in the NFL behind New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He was a first-rounder, former first-rounder. He's more of a blocking tight end now, a glue guy, a leader in the locker room. This is what the Luke Getsy said in December, who's no longer with the Bears, but had high praise. One of the coolest things in my mind that I got to see was just, you got this guy that's in the room that's ascending to be a really high-level player that has Mercedes there to lean on him. He's talking about their new tight end. To see what kind of professional he is, the mentality he brings, all that stuff, former Bears offensive coordinator Luke Getsy said in December. Those intangible things are what had me like. I don't want to say begging, but saying this dude's going to make a difference and impact. And on top of it, he's out there doing his job at an elite level, still at his age. Spent the first 12 years of his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars, 28th overall pick. He spent the next 5 years with the Green Bay Packers, and this will be his second with the Bears. I've watched him play forever, playing Madden. When I was a little kid, I always loved Mercedes Lewis. I'd make trades for him on my teams. 20 seasons in football as a tight end, playing at 40 years old. That's an incredible feat in and of itself, that your body holds up, that you're healthy enough to do it. Awesome for him. Awesome stuff for Mercedes Lewis. Another year with the Bears to help Caleb Williams break into the league. I think that's a great thing for that Bears staff. French Open's my least favorite major. To me, the clay is the most boring of the surfaces. But the semifinals and the final on the men's brackets were phenomenal. You get Carlos Alcaraz versus Jannik Sinner. That's a heavyweight fight. Sinner wins the first set. He's rocking. He looks composed, but Carlos just takes it on the chin, keeps making shots, doesn't back down. And like his fellow countryman, Rafael Nadal, he finds a way. Down 2-1, wins sets 4 and 5 against Sinner, who's the new world number 1 as of today because of Djokovic withdrawing before his quarterfinal matchup against Casper Ruud. Alcaraz into his first career French Open final. Other semi, Casper Ruud wins the first set against Sasha Zverev, and Zverev wins 3 straight sets. Has been in 2 of the last 4 French Open finals, has been in the last 4 French Open semifinals. It's his best surface. He's got very close to winning. And then we got to yesterday. And I felt for him. Zverev was in trouble. It looked like he was down 5-3 in the third. Alcaraz wouldn't win another game in the third. Zverev wins it 7-5. He's got all the momentum. Loses it in the fourth. Loses that set 6-1. And after a ball that was called in, was actually out, would have been a break in the game for Zverev. He loses it, can't get his head back on straight. Alcaraz wins the fifth set, 6-2, which was a much closer set than the score. But Carlos Alcaraz has another match where he loses 2 of the first 3 sets, wins 4 and 5, and now at the age of 21 has won a French Open, a Wimbledon, and a US Open. Won a major on all 3 surfaces. He's the youngest player ever to win a major on all 3 by the age of 21. 3 majors, and it's hard to argue he's not the best player in the world right now. I didn't think he'd win. I had Tsitsipas, but he beat Tsitsipas in the quarterfinal. He went through Tsitsipas, Sinner, and Zverev to win this major. The Djokovic asterisk is not there because Djokovic was playing like shit. Djokovic went through 2 straight 5-setters, 4-hour matches. He wasn't winning this tournament. He wasn't going to get to the final. He would have lost before then. So I'm not... Spare me. He's the most entertaining player to watch on tour, bar none. Bar none. I don't know. He's not going to win 20 majors because I think Sinner's too good. I do think eventually Sasha Zverev will break through and win a major championship. He gets too emotional and he loses focus and he fixates on stupid crap. He needs to stop looking at his box and just play. But he's a heck of a talent too. But when that happens, I think you're going to see a lot of guys. I think Tsitsipas will win a major eventually. Sinner will win 5 to 10. Alcaraz will win 5 to 10 majors. Djokovic may still have 1 left in the tank before his career ends. Men's game, there's a lot of different options, a lot of great players. But for Alcaraz to lose 2 of the 3 first sets in the semifinal and in the final and to win both matches and to win the French Open title Incredible stuff from him. Women's draw. After the second round match for Iga Swiatek against Naomi Osaka, she was only broken 3 times. She did not lose a set, and she cruised to her 5th major championship and her 4th French Open. She's the queen of clay. She's only 23 years old, and she dominates at Roland Garros. I don't think she's a good enough player to dominate on the hard courts and on grass, like a Djokovic, a Federer, Serena Williams. But the record for most French Open slams by a female is Chrissy Everett with 7. I think by the end of Swiatek's career, she will have 7 or more. I think she at least ties the record, and I think more likely she eclipses it. She's that good on this surface. It's one-way traffic. That final on Saturday morning was a joke. It was hardly an hour. Jasmine Paolini, 28 years old, first major final, great story. She was happy to win a game in the second set. She kind of got a golf clap when she didn't get broken. It was like, okay, great. She held her serve. It was almost like, okay, we're playing a practice round. Let's hope I can get a point off this person. It's like a charity match out there. This is her surface. She's won a U.S. Open. She can win on hard courts. I don't think it's hard for her to win on grass. She's still the best player in the world. Don't get me wrong. But Rybakina's a hell of a player. Sabalenka will still be there. I think those 3 women are the best in the world currently, those 3. But I look at Iga Swiatek. She's 11-1 against Coco Gauff in her career, 7-0 on hard court. Sabalenka has never beaten her on a hard court. Rybakina has never beaten her. On a clay court. This is her surface. She's the queen of clay. 4 French Opens by the age of 23. You can be an all-time great by being phenomenal at one surface. Nadal did it for a long time. Just towards the back of his career, Nadal started to win on hard courts. He won a Wimbledon. She can scoop up French Open titles and be really good the rest of the year too and be competitive and make it to the Final Four in a lot of big tournaments. But 2 great winners. In 20 days, Wimbledon starts. Not a long layoff after the French Open. Players likely try to get into one grass court tournament to prepare. June 30th, Wimbledon. The best major of the year. The All England Club. The only negative part of the tournament is you might have to see the royal family. Gross, but I'll put up with it for the great tennis. But good endings for the men's side of the French Open draws. Before we sign off tonight, you have to acknowledge Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler won the Memorial yesterday, which is Jack Nicklaus's tournament. One of the toughest courses, just period. And he is the best player in the world. We're going to talk on Wednesday's show about the U.S. Open because the U.S. Open starts on Thursday at Pinehurst. He didn't play well Saturday or Sunday. He shot a 74 yesterday and he still won. Clutch par putt on 18. Beating Colin Morikawa by 1 stroke, which has been a theme this year. Morikawa's played some great golf. And he's finished second behind Scheffler 3 different times But Scheffler, he's been arrested. He's won a green jacket. He's won the Players. He won the Memorial. He won the RBC Heritage. He won in Texas. 5 wins before the US Open, which is in June. Does he want to play at the Olympics? Probably. If he does, he'll be the favorite there for Team USA. Won $4 million yesterday. He's made over $24 million in earnings this year from playing golf. Nothing to do with sponsors or anything else. But to me, you just have to acknowledge how incredible he's been. He's formulaic, he's boring, but he's a surgeon on the golf course. He knows how to do it. And he's a massive favorite going in. He's plus 300 right now on FanDuel Sportsbook to win the US Open. Xander Schauffele's at plus 1100. Followed by McIlroy, Morikawa, who should have better odds than McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Rick Hovland. We're going to talk about this on Wednesday, but I'm watching that yesterday. I'm seeing him close out the tournament. He's a machine. Best player in the world. Can do it all. Even when his putting isn't great, it's good enough to win. Good enough to beat the rest. So on Wednesday, we will recap Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. We will preview the US Open, which tees off Thursday at Pinehurst. Going to look back on some UFC storylines and talk about the weekend that's coming up in mixed martial arts. We'll talk NBA because Game 3 of the NBA Finals is on Wednesday night. Major League Baseball, will the Blue Jays be 500 by the time we talk next? Wait and see. They begin a series tonight in Milwaukee. It's a great series this weekend between the Dodgers and the Yankees. Watched a lot of that series. Watched some of that last night in the Bronx. 2 really good teams. Garrett Cole's pitching in the minor. It looks like he's going to come back, and to be wrong about that. But that's all coming up on Wednesday. It was great to be back. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate the support as always. Until Wednesday, talk to you then. This is To The Point.